We just recently celebrated the 4th of July, and that got my mind thinking a lot about our country, our freedoms, and how events have occurred. The Declaration of Independence and then the Constitution all give us a lot of what we have and are able to do. There's the First Amendment in the Constitution. It has several of the freedoms of which we are honored to participate in. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and then we have freedom of the press, we have freedom to assemble, and freedom to petition the government. All wonderful things, all abilities and rights each and every one of us are given. The first two we seem to hear a lot about. Freedom of religion. Well, we're here right now and we are practicing that freedom. Sometimes it seems as if there is a battle against freedom of religion. I'm not so sure about it, because we're here and we are able to do as we please. Freedom of speech. There's many words being spoken right now. A lot of hatred is being spoken. But, again, in our country, we're free to speak pretty much as we please. It's a right that we've been given. So it made me think about what we choose to speak, how we choose to speak, and where we choose to speak. Because freedom of speech seems to be what our readings are all about. We have to trust in Jesus, and we are called to be prophets in a society that needs prophets. So we are asked to speak up. It's all about speech. It's all about trust. It starts with a trust in Jesus, and then it moves to acting in that trust and speaking out with the freedom that we have been given. And God calls us to this. All of the readings kind of lead us here. Amos, he's a prophet, but he wasn't a prophet to begin with. He was lower than a lot of others in society at his time. He's out in the fields, he's a gardener, he's tending to some animals, and he's tending to the sycamores. He's just pruning some trees. That's his job, and it's only seasonal probably. And God calls him out of this simplicity. Not out of the learning that he has, but out of the simplicity. And he speaks out. And we hear Amaziah, the chief priest in the area he comes into, Amaziah says to Amos, "Off with you, visionary." And Amos just says, "Look, I'm no visionary. I didn't have any training. God just called me forward, and I'm trying to do what he asks me to do." So in the heart of his being, he trusts in God, and he takes that trust, and he's vocal. He's vocal. He's visual, and he's vocal. We have to think about, what does that mean to us? How are we to live our lives? Is it just to be here and walk away and not be a vision or a voice of compassion and love in the world? Well, Amos tells me a little bit different than that. Even in Ephesians today, Paul's letter to the Ephesians, he's talking about our purpose. What is our purpose? Well, our purpose is that we might exist for the praise of glory for God. And what God is calling us to is to be prophets and disciples. Not to sit back in our comfort, but to take that step, do the uncomfortable thing. Amos was not comfortable stepping forward. And initially, Paul struggled with Jesus, but learned who Jesus was, and that changed how he behaved. And then finally in Mark's gospel today, Jesus is real clear. He began to send them out 2 by 2. In his time, if there was a life or death event, you needed to have 2 witnesses. And so, we're changing ourselves from the darkness. He's changing it from the darkness to the light. To follow him, to love God. And that is a death to darkness, a death to evil, and a birth in new life in Jesus Christ. And he has 2 witnesses go out and proclaim the word to others. So it's all about a trust in Jesus Christ, and then taking that trust and being the prophets that we are all called to, all of us. Now, we'll start with me, the lowest of the low. Parishioner here, I've been here for 32 years almost. I was sitting in the back of church as an engineer during the day, trying to listen and figure out who this God was, listening to him speak to me all the time. And I've said this a million times, I have a thick head and it took a long time to get through to me. And I am only up here because I am, just like Amos, the odd guy called up to start and talk about Jesus Christ, talk about God, talk about changing the way we live, changing the priorities in our lives. I will tell you that part of being a prophet, or part of being someone who will speak up, is not to expect anything, to understand that it's difficult. It's not easy to be the word of reason in a world where there is not a lot of reason sometimes. To be that loving, caring human being in a time where it's easier to sit back or go home. I don't have time to talk with this person who's not feeling really great right now. Or knowing someone who's at risk, who may be alcoholic, that's just the way they are. I'm not going to say anything. Or we see someone who may be addicted to drugs and we just say, that's someone else's problem. It's not my problem to speak up. There's demons out there, and Jesus Christ says we're all called to try and help pull those demons away. He's no longer here to perform these miracles of pulling the demons away. Only you and I are here. And if we truly have Jesus Christ in our hearts, and as I always say this, when I talk about believing in Jesus Christ, it's the actions and love and words that he spoke. So to say, I love Jesus Christ, to partake in the Eucharist, is to say, I love him so much that I will honor him every minute of my life. We are all called to be prophets. And a prophet's going to go out there and helps in a humble setting. To walk around, I'm here to save you. It's all about humility and care and love. And knowing that you will get rejected, but being patient and continuing to go back in offering your love. This is what Jesus Christ teaches. I use the example that when I give a homily, I have no concept if anybody heard or understood a word I said. But it doesn't matter. God asks me to do it anyway. I don't need to hear it. I really try to live the life that he tells me. He says, be a prophet, be a disciple, love others, and don't be afraid to speak out. So I'm up here. I don't know that I've connected with one person, but Jesus Christ keeps calling me back. Keeps calling me back, telling me to keep going forward. So I cracked open that little opening in myself to really realize that Jesus Christ was there. His words had meaning, and that I needed to speak up. I needed to step forward. And I'm here to tell you it's not hard. It's what we're called to do. If I trust in everything that Jesus Christ is, that if I take the Eucharist and say amen, I am saying that I am a disciple and I am a prophet, and that I will speak the truth I will speak in the freedom that I've been given. That's how we honor the 4th of July in its sense, is when we practice our freedom of speech. We practice our freedom of religion. And that we do it in our hearts and in our minds, and not just in that, oh, I'm here, I'll put in my time. We're called to evangelize. We are called to evangelize. So I'd ask, are there any words or actions that we have done recently that would reflect our humble trust in Jesus Christ? Can you picture a time this past week? Can you think, is God really calling me? And can you picture, where is he calling you from, and where is he sending you to? We live our lives, and we are thrown in front of people, events, every second. That is where we are being called to be the Christ that we are called to be. This freedom of speech was given to us to help us build up Christ on earth. That's what that freedom is all about. So I'd ask, do you think, as I pray, that each of us would better trust in Jesus and speak the word that is needed by a world that is so desperate to hear it? And if we choose to, then, and only then, will the world be as the Psalm tells us today. The Psalm tells us so beautifully what the world will be like when we use our freedom of speech and we speak and live the life that God calls us to. Because kindness and truth shall meet. Justice and peace shall kiss. Truth will spring out of the earth, and justice will look down from heaven, and we will have heaven on earth. Amen.